to get ourselves into a place to be able to show up, we're doing all the things like the meditations, we're potentially even drinking like the green juices, doing all the things, whereas actually fundamentally there are some systematic like biochemical imbalances that we need to address.
Wild Rose! Wild Rose!
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Wild Roads podcast, conversations about how we don't do stuff normal. We have the divine Elizabeth Sargent with us today. We are so excited to talk to you.
Yay! Hello! Thank you. I love being called the divine Elizabeth Sargent.
Everything about you is just divine. And we're so excited to jump into the conversation around health, hormones, and wealth with you today, which is your whole jam, which is just magnificent and brilliant. And to kick things off with our podcast, we always start with hashtag awkward question time, just to get the ball rolling, the good times rolling, to loosen us up a little bit.
Whenever we say that, everyone's like face just drains. Like, oh my god, what are they
go?
Oh,
okay.
I've been thinking, like, what question might they ask? I was like, well, they've asked this person this question, this person. I have no idea where this is going to go.
Well, Shona has a cracker for you today.
All right.
Thanks, Shona.
It just popped in. Like, what was the dorkiest thing you did when you were a teenager?
Ooh. Goodness me. Throwback. Dorkiest thing I did as a teenager. Oh, my word. Gosh.
If you need a moment, Shona can answer first.
I can answer. I have the dorkiest answer, just so you know. Okay. Oh man. Okay. Some people that are listening that are younger than me are probably going to go, what? Huh? Anyway, I had this moment in time when about 14, 15. I went through this phase where I read back-to-back Mills and Boon books. Do you remember Mills and Boon books? Oh my god, how dorky. And like
meow, Shona.
Reading these books and they're juicy and saucy and I'm just learning about these hot men. I'm just like, whoa. And yeah, I mean, it was probably a couple of months of it and I did realize that, you know, most of the mums of my friends are reading these type of books, not 14 and 15-year-olds. And so I was just like, oh yeah, I better put it away now, when I finally looked at myself and went, yeah, that's a bit But anyway, I had the best time for a couple of months.
Yeah, right. Where were you picking them up from?
Probably my nana.
Oh my god, how's that? Hey Nan, can I borrow another one of your books?
Oh, funny times. Anyway,
that is hilarious. I didn't read the saucy books, but I think the dorkiest thing that I did as a teenager, and I cannot remember if I've already shared this on the podcast before. I think I might have. I think I remember talking about it recently, or not so recently. But the dorkiest thing that I did as a teenager was, like, I've always been obsessed with photography and photographs, and I was always like, it was film back in those days, so I was the weird friend that always took photos because nobody really took photos back then. And so I had frames and frames of photos in my room. Like, I would cut them out, make collages, and like blow some of them up, put them in frames, pin them on my wall. Like, my walls were just covered in photos of my friends and things in these frames. And I then also would sneakily put in like photos, or like, you know, magazines, how they used to have the posters that you'd take out and hang on your wall. I'd then frame some of them and mix them all in with my friends. So it looked like, you know, there was Lenny Kravitz and like Joshua Jackson.
How did you hang out with those dudes?
Pretending like, you know how you have all the photos of the ex-boyfriends and like your friends and stuff. Yeah, I think that's probably the dorkiest thing I did.
Totally did that. I totally did
Oh
that.
my goodness.
Pretended John Bon Jovi was my boyfriend to my little cousin who was like 8 and she believed me. Oh God, the things you do.
That's pretty
Oh my
funny.
word. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm trying to think. I think my dorkiest thing was, there's a couple of things coming up here. First of all, when I compare myself to teenagers these days who are like super cool, got it
Yeah.
all together,
Yes.
look immaculate, they've just got everything going on. I was definitely not like that. Like, my mum was still buying my clothes for me.
Mm.
I don't know, maybe until I went to university. I mean, that's probably an exaggeration, but you know, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I was
totally.
like dressed in. I remember one particular time when she came back from this shop called Marks and Spencer's. I don't know if you have that in Australia. It's like a big kind of, yeah, like it's a clothing shop,
Like
okay,
Maya.
where your mum would like to go and shop basically, and they sell all the kids' clothes. Well, the kids' clothes are cute, but when you're a teenager, you probably don't want to be wearing Marks and Spencer's. But because I didn't really go and buy my own clothes, she came back once with these green, what you call moleskin trousers. They're like kind of like a, no, not even a brush cotton. I don't know what to describe moleskin as. I mean, on the most horrific side, if you imagine a mole and its skin, it is actually thin. I'm sure quite horrifically. That's probably where it came from. Yeah, I know. Anyway, just they're green and this like baggy kind of 80s, 90s. We're in the 90s. I'm not that old. 90s t-shirt, and I was just like, I can't possibly wear that. And I just had to kind of had the conversation. I was like, we need to do something about this. And I'm pretty sure I was definitely 16, 17 at that point. And I look at the 16, 17-year-olds these days, and I'm like, that was a whole other world. So I think I had like, I was just in my world of like playing sport, doing all the stuff. You know, I wasn't like super cool, but I wasn't like, I don't know what the continuum is. I was just kind of in the middle, friends with the cool kids, friends with whoever. But I clearly did not have the street cred, cool clothes things going on. I was just generally, I think, dorky from a style perspective.
I can relate.
Oh my God, I definitely had some cringy fashion moments. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so interesting how fashion comes and goes.
Yeah.
And like, there's so much of the 90s fashion that was so cringy at the time that's being brought back now that you see it. It influences what's like trendy now. And you're like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm loving? I am loving the fact that boot cuts come back.
Yeah.
Because I still have boot cut jeans from back then. I mean, like hoarder.
I bet you
get them back out then.
I bet you've got the real cool ones that are low-waisted too.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Are they low-waisted in fashion now? Because all of mine are low-waisted. I'm like, I don't know if they are.
Is it coming back?
Well, it's starting to come back, but my daughter and I have been looking forever because we don't like the high. And so they're starting to come back, like the real low-waisted, and I'm just really scared because I'll bend over and you know what happens.
This is true. There is a drawback.
You
forget those moments.
Yeah.
I saw somebody on, I think it might have been Instagram, they referred to it like when you bend over and you got the low-waisted, they referred to it as the whale's tail. I was like, oh, it kind of does. But I'd never heard that before.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I think the whale's tail, you know, I'm like 30 years older now. I'm not sure if I can get away with it anymore.
I wonder if the Christina Aguilera Britney phase of like having your G-string purposely above the fold.
You did. Did you? You were wild. Yeah, no.
I didn't really do it on purpose, but it would happen. But then it was like, yeah, some people would do it on purpose. And I'm like, why? But anyway, I wonder if that's going to come back. I'm not sure.
I hope not. I'm not doing it.
Cringy. Okay, so let's dive into this week's episode with Elizabeth. I have an epic quote that you posted not so long ago that I absolutely love. Our health is a sacred power that will amplify our abundance and wealth. And I absolutely love that, because it is. And I feel like, I know for me, that health, when we're, especially in the entrepreneurial world, when we're building these businesses, we focus so much on doing the things that help grow our business so we have the money to do stuff. And we focus on how do we make more money? How do we do this? How do we do that? That like builds our businesses, which is great. And at a lot of the time it sacrifices health.
Yeah.
And I really love the work that you do. And you are really helping people, mainly in the entrepreneurial world, to really think about their health. And it is a portal for more wealth, more abundance, having a thriving business, and all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, I get so passionate about this. Yeah, like totally. So when we're looking after ourselves, when we're taking the time to fill ourselves up, tune in to what's going on inside our bodies, with our hormones, with our energy, the ripple effect that then has inside our businesses, but also not just inside our businesses, inside our lives, inside our connections with our family, connections with our loved ones, connections with our clients, connections with our customers. You know, that allows us to step into our power. And from that place, we can build the businesses that are both soul-led and so impactful inside the world. And I think what happens is exactly what you said, is when we're so caught up in the business, caught up, just really trying to massively overachieve, down to it. Because I think when we're in this entrepreneurial world, or even in a corporate world as well, where it's so much as high achievers, as high achieving entrepreneurs, we want to make our mark. We want to, we have a mission that we're on. We have a quest. We have like these desires that we're bringing to fruition. And we keep moving towards that. And in doing that, we disconnect from not necessarily who we are, but disconnect from our bodies. And when we're able to come back and prioritize health, everything else becomes so much more effortless, because our health is our energy. Our health is our hormones. Our health is our passion. Our health is our inspiration. When we have, and we're able to be completely present inside ourselves, and to be completely present inside ourselves, we need to be feeling amazing. We need to be feeling as one, in harmony with our body. Then so much inspiration just flows, and you can just see it in the women who are really like just leading so much of what they're doing in this world. You can see how their health really shines through. So it's huge.
100%. Like I will admit that I took my health for granted in my 20s and 30s. Everything worked like clockwork. I didn't have to work hard at it. I was healthy anyway. I was health conscious anyway. Like, good food. I hardly did, takeaways and stuff. But I don't know. I guess I do have a nerding thing about physiology and that sort of thing. So I was interested in that, but I didn't work hard at it. I didn't even consider really how the impact on hormones and things like that would have, and I actually didn't even think that it would impact me at all for the rest of my life, because when you're young, you think, you think nothing's ever going to happen to you. You feel good now, so you're going to feel good for the rest of your life. And then, like in the last 2 years, 3 years, and I'm over that 45 now years old, it's really like, holy snapping, I haven't changed a thing, but I'm starting to feel my body like I've never felt it before. Things are starting to change. Things are starting to feel like, hang on a second, why am I foggy? Why am I low in energy? Nothing's changed in my lifestyle. What's happening? And it really made an impact on how I was showing up in my work.
Yes.
Massively.
Yeah. It has a huge impact. And I think one of the challenges is, as young women, we become quite disconnected with our body, and actually society as generally set up to kind of disempower women from their connection with the body. If we think about our monthly cycles, so many women suffer with disruptive monthly cycles. PMS, oh, it's the time of the month, you know, that whole rhetoric around the monthly cycle and moods and not feeling great. So it's taken for granted that that's how we're going to feel. And it even becomes like the butt of a joke. So as young women, we become so disempowered with how our body, you know, should just flow, should ebb and flow, and why it's ebbing and flowing. You know, what's the beauty and the magic and the power of those hormonal fluctuations? Because there is so much magic and power in those changes of those hormones at different times of the month. But at no point as young women is that what we talk to about that. Are we educated about that?
No way. Do you know what? I suffered a lot early on with my cycle, and the thing which a lot of women in our generation was like, oh, go on the pill and it will sort everything out for you. Kind of like this beautiful magical thing. But then there's a whole bunch of side effects that come with that, and trying to find the right one where you don't go too, like, some of them made me go really like over the top hormonal, and then others, you know, my boobs grew to like 2 sizes and I've already got a big chest, and I'm like, I don't want to have like ginormous boobs that I can't find a bra that actually fits me. And then like there's all these different things, and it was so interesting. Like my 20s, I definitely took my health for granted. I worked in clubs and bars for most of that time, had a really unhealthy sleeping habit, and was studying and all of these things, and was in a smoke-filled environment the whole time, working and like serving alcohol and all of these things, and had terrible eating habits because, you know, was eating sugar to keep my energy up, and was eating pub food most of the time and all these things. And like I was blessed with a, you know, fast metabolism, so I'm like, I can eat whatever I want, it's all good. And it wasn't until, you know, it was around when I turned 30, I decided to get off the pill. And that's when I really took my health and really looked at it. And I worked with somebody who I was like, I'm scared to get off the pill because all of these symptoms are going to come back, like like it being really irregular and so painful. I was taking days off school, and I was like, I can't do that now that I'm working. And so I worked with somebody, and we went through like a whole naturopathic way of, you know, getting my hormones back on track. And ever since then, I've been learning more about it. And this is why I love the work that you do, because it's so empowering, and it's so disempowering when, you know, you go and ask for help, and you're like, this doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem right that I have to take days off school every month because I can't walk. It doesn't seem right that I'm vomiting because I'm in so much pain. Like that doesn't seem right or healthy. And to the response to that was like, go on the pill and you'll be fine. It's kind of like, well, what happens when I want to get off the pill? Like what's happened this whole time that I've taken synthetic hormones and actually understood what the pill was, because I was never told what it was. And so I really love hearing you talk about hormones and how important all of this is, because I want to be a part of helping, you know, my children's generation understand what hormones are, how they function, what healthy hormones should look and feel like. And if they're not, it's okay. We can do things to see what's going on, and for it not to be like a shameful thing either. Like your monthly cycle should be a time of celebrating how freaking epic the human body is and how amazing you are, versus hiding away and not letting anybody know that you have your period right now or any of those things, and feeling so shame around it.
100%. And then, as exactly what Shona was saying, as we then progress into kind of our 30s and 40s, you then start to see this heightening, because we've been so disempowered. When you start seeing hormonal changes, it's like, what is going on? You know, how am I meant to deal with this? And then you can become, you know, I have a lot of women who come to me and they're like somewhat lost, because it's like, I just don't even recognize myself anymore. And it's crazy. And like what you were talking there about the pill, you know, when it comes to the pill, all the dysfunction that's been going on with regards to, you know, the pain, the heavy periods, the mood swings, that's still going on under the surface. The pill is literally just a band-aid. And the challenge is, because that's still going on under the surface, that kind of gets up a bit more momentum. So unless you're Like, you can use the pill as a band-aid, and some women do. So they might go on the pill. And if you're being really conscious about this, you could potentially go on the pill, work on the dysfunction and the inflammation and the imbalances, and then, come off the pill and ensure that you come off that in a really great way, like Paula was just talking about.
Yeah.
And then it would just become effortless. But at the same time, our bodies respond so quickly. So you don't even really need to go to that extent. Within weeks, your cycle can look extremely different.
That quick.
And I think, like, literally weeks, 3 weeks, within one cycle, you can notice huge
Wow.
differences when you start tuning in to exactly what your body's saying. And it's our fifth vital sign, right? We are so lucky as women to have a cycle as this beautiful barometer of health.
Wow.
And when our cycle is out of whack, it's just our body saying, hang on, there's something going on here. There's some hormonal imbalances. There might be a gut infection. It could be some inflammation, some blood glucose imbalances. But if we don't listen to that, that just continues. And then one symptom escalates to another symptom, escalates to another symptom. So it's so powerful when we talk about hormones. And then obviously the impact that has on our ability to show up inside our business is huge. 1 month, 1 week of every month, if we're not able to stand inside our power, that can feel very disempowering. You start to question yourself, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel like this right now? And that just, it just gets me so passionate, because it stops women from continuing the momentum within their business, continuing their momentum towards their dreams. And it's like this little stumbling block every month that comes up and impacts their ability and energy just to show up and be them and be authentically them.
Well, it would absolutely affect their confidence, my confidence. People that go through this big, like, it feels like a truck's hit you. Like, for me, when you like getting over to 45, and the confidence, like, really feeling like, wow, have I got to a point now that, this entrepreneurial world, this coaching world, I'm past it. It's for the younger ones that have got more energy and for more spark, and they, and vibrance and vitality. Do I just like hang up the boots now and go and, do something that my age group should do? Those sorts of stories come into your head, into your mind.
Yeah, definitely. And what happens is, as you get into your 40s as well, you've got years of resilience being slowly eroded. So depending on how you've attuned to your body over the previous 20 years and how you've led your life, as you move into your 40s, it becomes so much more apparent. So you've kind of got this reduced resilience, this maybe a higher level of HPA axis dysfunction. That's your hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. So often people, would just generally talk about it as your adrenals, your kind of like your nervous system and your stress. You've got reduced resilience there, and then that touches all your other systems. And then often we have more responsibility in the home. We might have more responsibility financially. All of these, we might have aging parents. All of these things kind of mount on top of each other. And then you start to really notice these hormonal changes, and the doubts come in, and the pace of life, does it start to become too much for me? And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be like that.
I don't want it to. I don't want it to.
It doesn't. We just need to slow down for a second to listen, to find that foundation again. Find that foundation inside our health, because from that platform, we can just project. We can just stand and step into our power. We can lead our businesses from a very strong place, and also from a place that works for us. We don't need to be doing all the gazillion things on all the socials all of the time. We can be a lot more strategic, kind of like in our older wisdom. We can also be very strategic as to how we lead our businesses too.
Yeah, I guess because we're suppressing it or putting band-aids on what's happening underneath. It's like, even in our early 30s, late 20s, we're probably, who knows, at the capability that our bodies can take us and where it can take us. We don't actually know what's going on.
Yeah,
We could
exactly.
be like
Yeah.
really like we could be operating at 80% and we think we're at
Yeah.
100.
Yeah, and I had this really we had this really emotional call the other day of one of the ladies that I'm working with, and she's just about to turn 50, and over the last about 8 years she's kind of been kind of getting in touch with me, and then okay, and then eventually just before Christmas she's like, right, I need to work with you now, you know, all the wheels have kind of fallen off. And within 10 weeks, her life is completely unrecognizable. And as part of this, she's been working with me one to one, but she was also part of one of my group programs. And she came onto the call. And I mean, I'm getting a bit emotional talking about it now. She came onto the call and she was talking to the group and reflecting. She was like, one of the biggest things for me is that I'm so envious of all of you going on this journey. And some of you are 10, 15 years sort of my junior, and you now have those 10, 15 years with this knowledge, with this attunement to yourself, with this empowerment. And she's like, I've been in Liz's world for 8 years and I didn't take that step for myself. And I don't necessarily regret that, but on reflection, I see you standing up powerfully for yourself, showing up and giving yourself what you need. And we were all like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
what a moment.
Yeah.
it was huge, huge. And so it's like what you were just saying, Shona, you know, we can do so much for ourselves. And if we tune into that earlier on, it makes the transition as well as we do go into our 40s and into our 50s so much more effortless.
For sure.
So what are some of the this is what I love hearing you talk about, is how there are so many things that we say about our bodies, about, you know, our menstrual cycle and things like that, that we just take as, well, that's just a normal thing, isn't it? And I love your posts around, well, it's actually not supposed to be this way. We've just normalized it because this is happening to so many people, that instead of trying to, you know, really give people the power of knowledge of like knowing that this is not normal, and there's, you know, we can do things about this. What are some of the common ones? Because I was so surprised. I've seen you post about this a few times, and it still surprises me. I'm like, that's not normal. What?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So some of the not normal stuff is, like you say, so many of the menstrual cycle type symptoms are just super common, and it has become normalized. And I think partly because some of them take a little bit of effort to reharmonize, you know. And if we're thinking about how our medical world is structured at the moment, like typical Western medicine, you know, clinicians don't have the time to spend with women to really go into, okay, what's going on, you know, let's explore and let's help you move through that. And so it's easier just to plaster on and make jokes around women's cycle. So some of the big things that so some of the big things that come up are heavy periods, painful periods, low mood swings, anxiety. For some women, like the depressive type thoughts, cyclical depressive thoughts, painful boobs. Goodness me, all the things, low energy, all the things that come in part and parcel of PMS and associated conditions. So even going to the extent of like something like PMDD, so that's premenstrual dysmorphia, which is a really extreme form of PMS. It's this collection of different symptoms. So when you go and see a clinician, they'll say, okay, well, you're experiencing some depression, so we'll put you on antidepressants. You're experiencing pain or heavy period, we'll put you on the pill. We might put you even on HRT as well, you know, even if someone's in their like 30s, that's one of the treatments. But when it comes down to it, it's literally just these hormonal imbalances, and you've just got these spread of different symptoms. And the same is true if you look at like adrenal dysfunction, you know, HPA-axis dysfunction. You've got this big disparate blanket of symptoms, from low libido to like real fatigue, to brain fog, to anxiety. And if you went and saw someone, they would be like, oh, right, well, you've got all these different things going on. Your tests look normal, but we'll just treat the symptoms. Whereas actually the body is as one. So whether it's monthly cycles, whether it's your adrenals, your body is one system. And so many of these things we just take as normal as being busy women, busy high performing women, busy mothers. I think like as you move into motherhood, like, well, of course I'm going to feel tired. I've got the kids to do this. I'm building my business. I'm
sleeping less,
doing podcast recordings at whatever time of day. I'm in juggling. I'm running the household. I'm doing all the things. I'm going to be tired, and all my friends are tired. This is normal. And
the
all my
more you
friends
talk about being tired, the more tired you feel, and everybody seems to be talking about being tired.
Exactly. So that in itself becomes normal. And again, we're just disempowering ourselves. So yeah, so when we really start to understand what's normal, but actually shouldn't be normal, so it's just common. A lot of people feel like this, but it's not normal at all. And so all of those PMS type symptoms can lift in weeks when we really start to listen to what's going on in the body.
I love that you just said that there's a difference between common and normal. Like, you know, because when you hear that word common, it's just like, oh, it's normal. But wow, that just blew my mind, just so you know. Like, do you know, that's going to change a lot of things for me, because is it normal? Yeah, it's common, but it's not normal. Wow.
Yeah, just because it's common doesn't mean that it's a normal thing.
Yeah.
So talk us through, because I really nerd out about hearing you talk about this as well, about how you go about working with people and really finding out, like they come to you and say, I feel this is happening, this and this. What is the process that you take somebody on to actually figure out what is going on? Because people could have that, and I guess this is why in Western medicine they like to put band-aids over things, because they're like, well, it could be a whole number of things that are causing this, but I know if you take this, you're going to feel better. And that's better than actually feeling the thing and trying to figure it out. So what does it actually look like to work with you? Because I love hearing about all the different ways that you do this.
Right. So I'm a functional medicine practitioner. So how I work is I work to look for the root causes of dysfunction. And I say causes because the body is one whole system. So there will be various things that are influencing each other. So quite often with a lot of women's health imbalances, so whether that's hormonal, whether it's adrenals and kind of like an energy perspective, we're really looking at some of the core systems that are at play. Would be firstly the adrenals, the stress. One would be gut health, and the glucose dysregulation and detoxification, so your liver, and that also includes your gut as well. So how I work is I understand, where has someone been? What has been their beautiful journey of womanhood from, actually, I mean, we actually go back right to potentially childhood and even like kind of in utero kind of conversations on some cases. And we go right back and say, what has been the journey that has got you to this point right now? Really understanding all the different things that are at play, because that builds this incredible picture of like what has gone before, what are the patterns that we are seeing, what's the dysfunction we are seeing, and what system has influenced other systems. And then we look at you as a whole person right now. My then priority is to get them feeling as good as possible, as quickly as possible. A little bit like what you were saying, you know, you can put a band-aid on and it'll make you feel better. Now, I want to get you feeling as good as possible, as quickly, without necessarily putting a band-aid on. And then when we get you kind of feeling a lot more aligned and attuned to yourself, we can then really get into the momentum. And quite often at the beginning, we might do some functional testing. So then we really start to, and that will be very bespoke depending on obviously what's coming up for you, where you've been on your journey. So whether it's looking at sort of your gut, whether it's looking at your hormones on something like the Dutch test, doing a full blood panel to see what's going on in all the different systems and how they're interlinked. That's a little bit more bespoke. But with that insight and knowledge, we can then have a really clear idea of what's going on within. And that is in itself is so empowering. And I think so many of the women that come to work with me, I think particularly because they're entrepreneurs or they're leaders in corporations, they like to have that data. They're like, tell me all about myself.
Yeah.
We all like to understand ourselves better. And
Yeah.
quite often, in this entrepreneurial, we understand ourselves on a mindset level. We do a lot of mindset work, we do a lot of inner work, and we do get to know ourselves. And where I'm coming in is like, let's get to know yourself on a biological level. Where are your hormones right now? What are they doing? How are they talking to different systems in your body? What's going on with all your little gut bugs? Each of those gut bugs are creating chemicals and signaling molecules that are being sent to all different parts of your body. What blend of gut bugs do you have? Is there an infection? And we really start to know what's happening in you. And from that platform, then we have the knowledge and the power to move forward. And whether that requires healing, because some of the women that I work with are actually already in a really great place from a health perspective, but they're just wanting to optimize that and really start to embody their health, to take their performance further, to be able to lead their business to multiple 6 and 7 figures. And they're really stepping into that sort of space. So it's amazing. And I love it because I get to work with women who are, amazing entrepreneurs, and we're doing some hormonal healing, or we're really looking at what's going on with regards to their adrenals or their gut health. And then I also get to work with women who, from that perspective, not necessarily need to do any healing. We're looking at fine tuning. We're looking at optimization. We're really looking at performance. So yeah, it's quite broad, but it's all around getting to know yourself. And for a lot of women, it's also about tapping back into that intuition. Because when we learn to trust our body and trust our intuition, we know that something's not right, but we just choose to ignore it.
Yeah.
And I had a massive kind of like epiphany last week when I was on a walk, and suddenly I was like, gosh, I don't know why this randomly came to me. It's like, your health is pretty much a direct reflection of your self-care and of your worth. And I can't remember the words that came to me now. I'm not quite articulating it correctly. And then I just reflected back to my journey and how my busyness, my lack of importance, my drive to succeed, my drive to achieve accolades, in my previous corporate career, and how that neglect that I did to my body, and not neglect as in, I wasn't like horrendously neglecting it, taking it like boozing all night, etc., but just neglect to the niggles, neglect to the hormone imbalances, neglect to tiredness, to push forward. And how that then unfolded for me personally in my 30s when I had adrenal dysfunction. It really hit me hard. It's actually, that wasn't me just trying to prove myself, trying to work up the corporate ladder, trying to start a business as I transitioned into this place in my space into my early 30s. That was actually neglect on a real kind of profound self-worth perspective. So anyway, that was a bit of a sidetrack, but I think it just comes back to how we're constantly striving and moving forward, and being able to come back to that intuition and giving ourselves the time and space to come into who we are.
Love that. Oh my gosh, it just gave me chills, because I think too, like when we're focusing on our businesses and we're focusing on making an impact in the world and creating abundance and having the balance with our life, with our our husbands, wives, children, our families, we think with that when we're not focusing, we're probably neglecting our bodies and what's going on inside. But sometimes it's on a subconscious level, I think, and it's just like we think that we're okay. We're actually thinking that we're doing all right. But I wonder how much energy is being used in the background going, you're not okay. You're not okay. What's happening?
Yeah.
You're not doing okay. How much energy is being used on that, and we're not actually functioning really that well in our businesses? And how does that, what does that look like looking in with our audience, with our clients? What does that look like? I
Yeah.
wonder that often. Like, how are people perceiving me when I'm not feeling right? And when I'm not feeling right, I don't want to be ill, so I'm pushing it
Yeah.
away, you know?
Yeah.
Bit of a
I
vicious cycle.
it is, and I think we are awesome at externally looking like we've got it all together. We've got the high energy. We're showing up. We're passionate. Yes, we're driving. Whereas internally, we're a hot mess. To get ourselves into a place to be able to show up, we're doing all the things like the meditations, we're
Yeah.
potentially even drinking like the green juices, doing all the things. Whereas actually, fundamentally, there are some systematic, like biochemical imbalances
Yeah.
that we need to address. We
Yeah.
just need to kind of release and reharmonize.
Yeah, and it's really getting to know your body, because there's so many things that people say that you must do for your health to be optimized in this way and this way and this way, and all of the supplements and all the amazing things that we've got out here, all the mushrooms and like the green stuff and the purple stuff and all the things that you personally, like, listening to how your body in particular is responding to these things, because there could just be one thing that you're doing that's throwing things off and you're not
Yeah.
realizing,
Yeah.
and you think you're taking really good care of your health,
Yeah.
but really, and I knew this was so interesting. When we traveled around Australia in 2019, I kept getting this voice in my head saying, stop eating gluten. And I was like, ignore it. I'm like, I'm fine. I can eat gluten. Nothing happens to me. Like, why did I just keep thinking that randomly? And then eventually I ended up working with Annette Shepherd, she's a PT and nutritionist, and also does like the forensic healing. So she does like the sports science as well as the healing, and all these, mixes all these modalities. And yeah, that was one of the things when she did the muscle testing on my body. She's like, your body's asking you to take a break from gluten and dairy for a while. She's like, it's not forever. It's just asking you to right now. And
Mm.
like, when I stopped eating it, it was crazy the amount of things that were shifting and changing with my body. Like, I had what I thought was adult acne. I'm like, I just get pimples still. I'm apparently still
Yeah.
like a child with my skin. And that all cleared up. I'm like, oh, my skin was telling me, like, even stop
Yeah.
eating the gluten for a while. And now I can eat it. Like, I don't eat it as much as what I used to, but I know that I can now eat it in small doses and I still feel great and my body's still amazing. But it's so interesting when you start to reintroduce things and you get that support from people who can test that for you. And I love that you do a whole bunch of different tests and you come at it and look at it from different angles, and so individual to the person, and not like blanket, this means this and
Yeah.
this means that, but actually going, to me, it feels like you kind of go on this scavenger hunt with people and you're like, oh, and then this is kind of going into this and this is leading from this. And I can see that this is relating to this. And it's not treating each of the things, like what you said, individually and going, well, we need this for this and we need this for this. It's like looking at it as a whole system. And
Yeah.
usually when you get to what like the root thing is, if you look at that, it has that domino effect through everything else.
Yeah. It's a beautiful jigsaw puzzle. That's what we're putting together. It's a jigsaw puzzle for how everything's
Yeah.
coming together. And it's a jigsaw puzzle and a waterfall. I kind of use both analogies. You know,
Oh,
you
I
kind
love
of
that.
find that the root of the source of the waterfall, and then you can see how things then cascade and how that affects all different systems. So we're just kind of working our way sort of back up the stream to find kind of those root causes, and often there's more than one. But yeah, we're kind of doing that, and it's fun. It's like being a little bit like a detective, and then you're putting the jigsaw puzzle
Yeah.
together, and it just lays it out for people. It's like, yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
see what's going on here.
Yeah, because, and the other thing that I learnt about that was like when looking at supplements and things like that, and I was taking way too many because I'd worked with
Mm,
somebody else in the past who was treating us before we left, we're living with toxic mold. And so we were trying to do things to sort of bring the body back after being exposed to toxic mold for, almost 2 years. And she had me on, like, I don't know, it was like $500 worth of supplements, going, yeah, we need this for this and this for this. And then just working with somebody who was not just looking at, like, the symptoms and what was going on in my environment, but also tuned into my body and was seeing what my body was asking for. And like 30% of the things that I was taking, 30% of the things I was taking, she's like, definitely keep these in, but you can get rid of the rest.
Yeah.
You don't actually need those, because if you're taking this, it's going to help your body absorb that more naturally from the foods that you're already eating. So you don't actually need that supplement, because it's going to come back naturally when you get this. And I love when it's more of looking at, I love that, the waterfall, because as soon as you you get to the edge and you're like, yeah, it's this, it kind of like everything sort of just starts to flow so freely as well. That's so beautiful. And I would love you to expand on this too, is there's a lot of us might feel really, really good because we are taking care of our bodies. We are doing the personal development work. So we are doing some of the things that we know that benefit our health, and we feel better when we do it. We wake up at certain times, we get the right amount of sleep, or we start the day with lemon water, which I know my body craves as soon as I wake up. And we might bring in and exercise and all of these things, and walking and fresh air and all the things. But I love that you're really helping women who feel pretty great, but who want to like go that next level.
Yeah. And that's where it gets really fun, because that's where we can, for some women, we get into a bit of biohacking, we get into bio data tracking. So we use devices like the Aura Ring, it's like my little Aura Ring. And that just gives you so much insight as to what's happening with regards, again, inside your body, but on a daily basis. And it's responding straight away, depending on what you do, how you feel. So we get to like be working really in real time, and then supporting them with a whole concierge of health, of wellness professionals. And this is just, I absolutely love to see this come together. And this is one of the things that I do for some of my kind of high flying women who want to lead themselves to, like, lead their businesses to amazing places, and they are like real high performers. So what I do is I work with them, bringing private chefs in, and this is women from all over the world. I work with private chefs to help support them to create the meals that are going to suit them based on where they are on their journey. So if we are working on something, it kind of like, it's like taking a lot off your plate, kind of, excuse the pun, but like taking a lot off their plate. It's like, I work with the chef and I will talk about, right, this is what we're working for at the moment. These are the kinds of foods that we want to include. We've also got the family to consider as well. So let's make everything align and make the meals all, when they're eaten together, to look the same. But these are the sort of things we need to be including. We need to optimizing this, need to making sort of slight changes. And then we might be like, right, where else are we looking? We perhaps want to be looking at some somatic healing. So then I'll work alongside somatic healers. So I have the whole person there at the core. And then we're bringing in other professionals as well to really expand the work that I do with the individual. It's the full like health and wellness, complete concierge. And from there, it's around creating this environment for them literally just to be able to stand in their power every single day, to get to know themselves on a much more intimate level, to be able to release things that potentially they didn't even know they needed to release, and then to step into that next level, to be able to operate. I sound very like masculine energy, to be able to operate in a particular sphere.
Yeah.
But it's this beautiful combination of that masculine, as an entrepreneur, we need to have those structures in place. We need to be able to have that energy there. But at the same time, we need to be able to have time and, time to be in our feminine, and to be able to attune to what our body needs. And actually, some of the ladies, we're looking at having masseuses, and I talk to the masseuse, and these are the things that are coming up. this is what the week is looking like, this is what we're prepping. And it's just the whole combination just becomes so powerful as to what kind of women are able to sort of step into.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah.
Let's get you in. Lux Health.
Let us in. I love that. And I love that you work with other people and bring them in, because it's not just the physical things that are going on with the body, it's the energy as well. It's the trauma, it's the, it's all of the things that we're holding in our physical body, and really looking
Also
at everything.
Yeah, it's also connected, that like that trauma piece. Even like going geeky, one of the ladies I was working with the other day, I hooked up with a geneticist. We were looking at epigenetics.
Wow.
And it's about just really refining, where are they in their journey, and how do we want to work on epigenetic, level to look at healing as well as age reversal, biological age reversal. We can go down all different avenues, and that's where it gets to become so bespoke. So we get the amazing bonus of like having chefs and masseuses.
I think so.
Is that the right word? Masseuses? Is that the plural? Massage therapists? Masseuses. But we get those, and they're completely aligned to the journey that you're on. But also we can get really specific with like the bio tracking and the geneticists and whatever it is that we're working on a biological level. Everything is also beautifully interlinked, and we can look at the whole human and just step into wherever we want it to take us.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Oh my gosh. It really is like the world is your oyster. We can dive into all of it.
I know we've like,
yeah, because it's like it gets to be so individual. That's what blows my mind. Yeah.
Especially when you start really going down that side of like the epigenetics. I mean, I get so geeky working with women on kind of like epigenetic expression. That's
what even is that?
Like, we've kind of covered the whole thing here, haven't we? Like from sort of periods, PMS, and now we're like going into like
epigenetic. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, good question, Shona. Yeah. So we have our DNA and our genetic expression, right?
Yeah.
And quite a lot of people go through life thinking, well, that's just my DNA. The way we age, like if it's chronic diseases, the way, I mean, a lot of it comes down to the way we age and also the things we experience on a daily basis. But so much of what we experience on a daily basis comes down to the genes that are being expressed and the proteins that are being produced from those genes on a daily basis. And that comes down to our epigenetics. And our epigenetics are these, I'm trying to like think how to explain it really simply, but basically we have the ability to change our genetic expression on a daily basis based on all sorts of lifestyle events, from ability to release stress. Like meditation is something that changes epigenetic expression, for example. I mean, there's so much research on this. So many different types of foods influence epigenetic expression, and you can reverse epigenetic expression and the progression of chronic disease, the progression, or you can reverse your biological age by starting to work at that molecular level, like that epigenetic level, by putting in place beautiful activities in your world, from things like meditation, from things like healing, somatic healing, that will be working on an epigenetic level. The foods that we eat, the movement that we do, they all work on that epigenetic level. And as a result, how you then go into the world and, your experience of the world completely changes. So yeah.
No, that's
Does
incredible.
that make sense?
Yeah, that's incredible. That just absolutely filled my science cup, because I love this stuff.
I do too.
Yeah.
Like when I did research on gratitude, I was like blown away by like how much it affects your body.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. And then I actually did some research. It was very quick research, a quick Google. But even doing certain kind of movements with the body, because I was just so interested. I'm like, why do I love doing cartwheels? Because for me, like sharing that I love doing cartwheels, so many women like, you know, around my age go, oh, I don't think I could ever do a cartwheel again. Like that's no, how do you do that? Like I can't stand on my hands upside down. But for me, like I hadn't done a cartwheel in like, I don't know, however many years. And it felt really uncoordinated. And I was like, I don't even know if I can still do this. But then when I started doing them again, it was kind of like, oh, I just want to do cartwheels. And I was like, what is this thing that's turned on inside of me that's like, yeah, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Even though it felt really uncoordinated to begin with, that there's actually science to, you know, how your body responds when you physically turn upside down. Like there's so many things that start to happen within your body. And like I nerd out about this stuff too. And I haven't even studied it. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I may have studied it in a previous lifetime because there's parts of it that I'm just like really like in tune with intuitively. But like, yeah, it really does. I love hearing people talk about this sort of thing. There's neuroscientists and stuff that I follow, and I just absorb their information. I'm like, it's so fascinating, the human body. And
it is. We have so much power when we start to
Yes.
understand, just even not even necessarily at that sort of level. You know, we've kind of covered all the different levels today, but you don't. We have so much, just little bits of information. You know, are so empowering.
Yeah. And we don't get taught anything about our human body, really. Like, it's like you get taught briefly in school about some random stuff that might start changing with your body, like when you go through teenagehood and all of that sort of stuff. But like, we don't actually, I said this in one of the courses that I ran. I was like, we don't have, we're not given a manual for our body when we're born. Like our bodies are born beautiful and perfect and all of the things, and it just works. And if you really think about all of the different systems and things that are working together in your body right this very second to keep you alive, like we don't even know, like we know, yeah, there's lungs and hearts and there's like nervous system and stuff, but like this is where working with somebody like you can really dive into, like, there is so much going on that is communicating with one another and turning off and turning on and like affecting this and affecting that yeah, I think it's a really valuable thing to, even if you don't want to learn about all of it, but work with somebody so you are at optimized health for yourself, whatever that is for your lifetime here, because we all need different things. Our bodies are being affected and impacted in so many different ways that it's not the same for all of us. And oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that's really important, actually, what you just said there around it not being the same for all of us, because we also go through life cherry picking and looking for information on the internet and being told things that we should be doing and believing, okay, if I do this, I don't diet, or if I do this sort of exercise, this is what's going to happen. And either it doesn't or it does, but it doesn't quite work for us. And then we make that mean something. And it is so individual. And I think that's the thing that we need to start tapping back into. And that comes back to that intuition, is being able to listen to our intuition and then like working with someone like myself to take that intuition and really mean something. Like, I have this intuition, I want to tap back into it. Let me draw a line in the sand. Let me understand what's happening inside me right now. And giving yourself that opportunity to become empowered around your own body, get to know your own body where it is now, and then be able to have that a little bit like a roadmap as to where you might want to lead it. And it could go in different directions depending on which routes you choose. And there are lots of routes you can choose, but understanding which route you're going to choose, what's right for you right now. And doing that knowing yourself rather than guessing. And I think so often we go through life guessing or picking up different bits of information that work for somebody else and then trying to apply it to ourselves. And I think that's the thing that really excites me, is when we know exactly what's going on inside us and then taking that route. And the other thing you just said there is around the gratitude. I think that gratitude, you hear a lot of people talk about it, but yeah, it's so powerful. And there are lots of little practices like that change, neuro pathways and change epigenetic expression. Every choice that we make is making a biological response in our body, whether it's at a genetic level or hormonal level. I mean, I'm getting kind of get super geeky and really taking it to the minutia, but
yeah,
it does. It's all a cascade effect. Every thought we have has a biochemical reaction, and those biochemical reactions have hormonal impacts within the body. And every feeling, thought becomes a feeling, and it's just this beautiful cascade. So if you're having the same thoughts every day, of course, you're going to be having the same feelings. And over time, those thoughts become more ingrained. And over time, those feelings and the chemical floods as a result of the feelings are going to, depending on if it's a good thought or a bad thought, is going to have an impact on your energy or on your hormones in whichever direction you're choosing to take. Because again, we can choose what those thoughts are.
Absolutely. And it's so important to have support with that, especially when it's overwhelming,
Yeah.
And just having I loved what you said about being intentional as to what route you're going to take as well, because you could take a few different paths, but once you have that intentionality of why you're wanting to do it, and I feel like that is really important long term while you're making these changes and these decisions, because change is usually one of those things that it sounds really good and we get excited about it and we start to do stuff, and then all of a sudden the fun wears off and it gets hard because we're actually shifting things for us mentally and physically and spiritually and all of the things that it's it's just easier to go back to what I was doing before. But if you're really intentional about the decisions that you're making and why you're doing certain things for your health and for your body, that will make it so much more of a journey to go on than just trying stuff. I just take this because I think that this is going to happen, or I'll just do this just because they said it was going to, that person said it was good, so I'll just do that too.
Fingers crossed.
And that's where the knowledge and the intuition becomes so powerful. And I think that's when in the work that I do, I see women sort of step into that space. When it gets difficult, they actually step into that and stay with it because they have the knowledge of the reason why so they have the logical knowledge of the reason why I'm doing this. And I now know, because I've tapped into my body and I understand my intuition, how doing this will make me feel and how doing that will make me feel. And I'm choosing this and I'm stepping into this because I know this will lead to this, it will lead to this. And every day they're constantly tuning into, I guess, some of that biological feedback, some of that feelings feedback as well, some of the energetic feedback. And it's constantly taking them along that journey, that, the intention that they've set for themselves. It allows them to stay on that path because they're becoming aligned. And you've got both the knowledge and the science as the rationale, because quite often we like to know that rationale rather than just blindly copying something that someone else has done. It's okay, now I understand why this will work for me. Okay, I've got that. Right, now let's do it. Now I start to see this working for me. Now I start to see this feeling different. Now I'm starting to feel more energy. Gosh, this cycle. Hang on a second. I'm on day 27. Whoa, okay. That's just come around and I don't feel anything funky going on. I'm feeling really great. And it just becomes this beautiful momentum from that point forward. So it kind of all comes together.
All comes together. How brilliant. Wow. Oh my God, Elizabeth, I could talk to you all bloody day. Wow.
This conversation was literally life.
Such life. Oh my gosh, it's
human
amazing.
Biology.
Yeah.
So tell us, how do people work with you? You've got your one-on-ones, but how else do they have the opportunity to work with you?
Yeah, so I have I've got a group program called Flourish. That's all around hormone and energetic mastery. So that's an 8-week program, and that's a really great starting place. Then I've got a mastermind, and then I have my different one-to-one containers. So I have Optimise 6, which is 6 months working with me one-to-one, and then I have Lux Health, which includes the whole concierge Shavazzle.
Oh,
Lux Health. Yes. Why don't that should be number one of like the desired luxury is your health.
Oh yeah.
Because the health is everything. We can't enjoy the other things if we don't have that. And I love that you called it Lux Health. It's just so yes.
Oh, it's so enriching. And you're right, it is that foundational piece, because when we have, the health, and this goes back to what we said at the beginning, right? When you have the health, you can step into everything else. And I think it's Lux Health because it is so enriching. And then with that, you can have whatever and that was interesting, even in the naming of that, what does luxury mean to me? What does luxury mean to you? And it means such different things to different people, right? So it's what that looks like to you in your world. And then it allows you to grow from there and have all the other beautiful, luxurious things in your world, because your success will just unfold, or continue to unfold, should I say, from that place. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh my gosh, because it's so underestimated. You can spend $80,000 on a luxury car. We need to spend money on a luxury, wellness experience so that we can continue to live our lives to the fullest.
Yeah. Totally. And reverse our biological age.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes,
let's get younger.
Yes, please.
Just to feel younger in your body.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been the best episode for sure. I loved it.
So much fun. I can't believe how much we covered. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Love having you.
Wow, Rose!